It's not very often that as I'm working with a family in moments of death and end of life that I get asked the similar question that Jesus was asked or presented with that situation. I have been asked occasionally at the end of life, what about mom or dad or my brother? Do you think that they're going to make it to see Jesus again? And we almost always get to the kind of conversation, what kind of person was mom or dad? What kind of life and how did they treat others or you? We oftentimes get to those type of situations. I do recall, however, one time, Jill and I were serving a smaller congregation down in the south central part of the state of Kansas. I remember that I was visiting with the loved ones after someone had died, very important in their life, and they knew that there was going to be a little bit of a situation because mom didn't prepare a will, an estate plan, and dad had died many years earlier, and so they asked me, well, Jerry, what should we do? I wasn't able to give them very sound advice. I was able to point them in a direction to seek counsel outside of the church, primarily in the secular world. I figured that might be of best or better help for them. I am all the time, it seems like, asked about situations similar to what Jesus pointed out in that parable to the disciples, to those who were listening, those who would have ears. They were hearing the Messiah speak about something that is very, very relevant. Having a storehouse to store up our goods. Same community, South Central Kansas. Robert Sharp is a wheat farmer. He also has a lot of cattle on his ground, on his land. They sometimes refer to that part of the countryside as the Fertile Crescent. They have a lot of great land that's filled with fertile soil. And so Robert would plant wheat in September-ish, like we do around here. And then he would put his cattle out on it all winter long. So he was able to feed his cattle off of the winter wheat as it was growing. And then he would take the cattle off sometime around April the 1st and let the wheat grow and join and come to a stalk and head. And then he would harvest it. So he invited his preacher, me, out to harvest. Now, I have to admit, I need to confess that I waited until lunchtime because I knew they would be having a big harvest lunch. So I waited until lunchtime, and Susie Messick, my church secretary, finally kicked me out. She said, go see the Sharps. So I did. And what I encountered was a brand new experience for me. Robert was taking me around on the combine for a little bit to look at the wheat, but then he said, get in this truck. It was a big semi-truck. And we went to a storage facility on his property. I said, Robert, don't you usually take this to the grain elevators, the co-op elevators there in Anthony? He said, I do, preacher, but this wheat I am binning at home. I said, why is that? He said, preacher, this is good wheat, and I'm going to use it for seed wheat next season. The question that some that are listening to the Messiah, listening to Jesus, ask, what shall we do? It's pointing to a distinction between two episodes in life that are very real to you, to me, to all of us, to all of creation. They are concisely what one has. The Messiah is asking us to consider, asking those who would listen to him. Are you craving to accumulate possessions, things, land, property? Are you craving to accumulate things? There are many from our community of faith, the people that we work with every day of our lives, the people that are in our families, the people that we leisure with, the people that we play sports with, the people that are in music and drama with us, that are craving to accumulate. You've seen it, you know that. Sometimes you probably even have to admit about yourself that you would like certain things to accumulate. It's been interesting to me over the last month. Several of our church family have begun a moving process from where they are residing right now to maybe a smaller facility, a smaller house, a smaller apartment. And some of them have been coming to me saying, I have some things. What do I do with them? And notice I emphasize the word things. They are merely possessions. And we have arrived at some decisions for them that I believe are relevant for all of us. The same sort of thing has been happening here at the church. I don't know whether you've noticed, but the last couple of weeks we have a book cart out here. So I'm asking you to, you may be hearing me say, well, get rid of some things, but now you're hearing me say, take some of our things. Patty Nicholas and I are inviting you to take home a book that you could eventually pass on to a friend of yours if you want. It's summer reading. It's full of good books, that book cart that's out there in the church parlor area. But Patty has realized, and so have you, that they are things. They are sitting on a shelf, and we've read through some of those books. And now it's time to find a new home. Jesus is not, the Messiah is not inviting, instructing, urging, pushing those who would hear to find new homes for all of your possessions. No, not at all. The Messiah is not saying, tear down the barns, all of the barns, get rid of all your possessions, although he does say that in a roundabout way to many of his disciples. Why would he say that? Why would the Messiah say, are you craving things? Are you craving accumulation of items? Primarily because the Messiah knows the truth. The truth, the nugget of truth that you and I have held in our hands before. That things, that certain items, possessions, true, but there are certain things that we do that could be categorized as accumulations that we have. If you go over to the church office today, I don't invite you to do that, but you notice that my office is full of things. I collect things. I collect toys on my desk. Now, some of us like to go and play with those toys. I collect things on my shelves. They are good benchmarks for the places I have been in my life, the things that I've done. I will remember those things, those times, because I can see that. However, the truth of the matter is that those things sometimes are like a very heavy, heavy, heavy chain that keep us from feeling the life of light and the life of flight with the Messiah. That's why the Messiah would say to the disciples, Are you craving the accumulation of possessions, of things, of wheat in the storehouse, of grains in the storehouse? Because if that's what you're craving, it may get in the way of becoming a complete, full disciple of mine. To be a first faith follower, the Messiah said, "Drop your nets and follow me." So Peter, James, and John, the other fishermen, dropped what they were doing. And Jesus also said, "Let the dead bury the dead. Let your families take care of themselves. Follow me." Unobstructively, completely, fully, without reserve, without anything hanging around you, without anything chaining you. Follow me. Free yourself. Now you may hear the Messiah then, at least my interpretation of the Messiah, saying, "Get rid of everything you have." I'm not saying that. The Messiah is saying, are there things that are getting in the way in your life? Possessions, attitudes? Are there people in your way from completely following me? The Messiah may be saying that to you today. The second and very prevalent truth: who is the one that we follow? Not what is the one, but who is the one that we follow? Are we craving to become a complete disciple of the Messiah? Are we craving a deeper connection with the Messiah?